week 50. Week 50's colors are all pastel, muted colors: cobalt, banana, ballet shoe, and pistachio. So the colors are all of them can be derived from the primary colors, so to speak, or a kind of primary. So you've got the blues, yellow, and red to create the pinks from, and then a kind of green. I'm going to try and show you today different ways of using those starting colors, the primary colors, and how to mix them to create this desired color. So this is ultramarine blue. This is phthalo blue. So you can see the two. One is more, much more of a turquoise, and this is a cooler blue. I've used it very often in demos. Then I've got, so I'll mix the two up and to create a kind of cobalt neutral blue. It's not too warm and not too cold. And then I've got this banana yellow, and for that I'm going to use this very bright nickel azo yellow, which is almost my go-to color. I use it very often because it's a very, very strong color pigment, but it's translucent. You see that beautiful translucence to it. And then obviously you make it opaque with the white gouache. And then I'm going to add probably a little tiny amount of Payne's Grey. And I might add a bit of red to create a more muted color. As you see, this yellow there is really quite a muted, soft yellow. Alizarin crimson is used for the red, or the ballet shoe pink, and that is a strong red, but it's quite a rich red. It's not too pink, and it's not like a scarlet red, like a vibrant red. But I'll mix that also. I'll mix in probably a bit of Payne's Grey, just to take the edge of the pinkness. It's quite a muted color. In pistachio, I'm going to use ultramarine, nickel azo yellow, and also Payne's Grey. So let's start with the easy ones. I'm using the white as my base for cobalt, and then I'm scooping a bit of ultramarine and a bit of phthalo, mixing it into the white, and I need more. I can almost mix all of that together, the bits that I have there, pretty much mix it all together, and it will just give me a blue that's neither a turquoise and not is it too strong a purple blue. So that's what I want. I want this like a primary blue, what's known as a traditional primary blue color, but with a bit of white in it. It's a very clean blue, and I could possibly add the tiniest amount of Payne's Grey, just a little shade of Payne's Grey, and that will just kick off too much of a clean color, to prevent it from being too much of just a clean blue color. It's still quite clean. Banana yellow, that's going to be the nickel azo yellow, and I'm actually just going to use a small amount of it, plus a small amount of the Payne's Grey. And as I mix the two together, I should get that much cooler yellow muted color. So I don't want to put in too much of the nickel azo yellow. It's a very strong pigment, but you can see what happens with the Payne's Grey being added. Just a tiny amount of Payne's Grey. That almost reads as a blue, so it turns it into it's almost like it mixes it into a kind of a green yellow shade of yellow. That's the banana. So it's just this pastel yellow color. Okay, so I'm going to write my blue. That was the cobalt color, and that is ultramarine, phthalo blue, plus white, plus a tiny amount of Payne's grey. And I'm just doing a little exclamation there. The yellow is, so this is this banana yellow. And that is nickel azo. Plus Payne's grey, tiny amount, plus white. And you can just see how that color, that is such a vibrant yellow as I have here, it's such a strong yellow. And how it can be, it's a chameleon of a color. It's a wonderful color to have. I always have it in my supplies. Nickel azo yellow. It's one yellow. It's in a translucent yellow, and it can go into a very vibrant, warm color, and it can also become this more muted color. It just lends itself to go both ways. The ballet shoe color. What I'm going to do, that I've got a bit of yellow on my brush, and I've got the white, and I'm mixing just a tiny amount of yellow that I had from the banana yellow. So that was a nickel azo yellow. I'm mixing in the alizarin crimson, and the more of that I mix in, the stronger the pink's gonna get. So I start off with white and mix the red color into it to get to where I want to be. And then I think I'm going to add a little bit more yellow to get it into this marshmallow color, a warm pink color. Okay, there's more of the pink dissolving, and then I need to make it dirtier. I need to make the color definitely into a more dirty pink color. It's too marshmallowy, too pink, too fresh, too much like icing sugar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scoop with my brush with a bit of blue on it, actually, tiny bit of the yellow, and possibly a tiny amount of Payne's grey. And that just turns it very quickly into a shade. You can just see it's gone into a much more of a grey pink color. I think if I am adding a bit more yellow, it should warm it up again. And it pretty much is the color I'm looking for. I could potentially add a little bit more Payne's grey to it, but I want to get it to that peachy color. I'm going to add a little bit of white to it still, just to make it a bit lighter again, a bit more pastel-like. Okay, so for the ballet shoe color, which is this grey pink color, I have alizarin crimson. So this alizarin crimson red, plus nickel azo yellow, plus white, plus Payne's grey. So it's pretty much the same mix of color, apart from the blue that's in there, but just mixing the colors with each other, with obviously a lot of white to create the opaqueness. It works. So let's see with the pistachio. The pistachio is this very dull, very muted green color, and the paint that I have already have become quite a bit contaminated, in that there's a bit of red in it, so the pink the yellow there and the Payne's grey. And I'm actually not going to worry too much about it because the color is quite a dirty color. In other words, it's not a clean green color. So whether there's a little bit of red mixing into it, it will, there's so little, it will just contribute to making the color this muted color I'm looking for. So I've got white, and then I've got a bit of blue on my brush. Didn't clean my brush. So that had the cobalt on it from before. And now I'm adding very small amount of ultramarine blue. So that's the blue color I wanted to get to retain this, to make the yellow not in, make the green not into a bright green. I wanted to retain this mutedness. And that has pretty much done it for me. I might need a bit more yellow. I'm just going to look on my my colors so quickly. So so the pistachio there is more blue, and yes, indeed, it needs a little bit more yellow. So I'm adding tiny amount of nickel azo yellow, and hey presto, there we have it. Now the one color I didn't actually add to it, and I thought that would do it, is the Payne's grey. And I want to show you something with Payne's grey. So if I have yellow, Payne's grey and white, so that's nickel azo, yellow, white and Payne's grey. So there's my Payne's grey. I should get a color that's quite similar to the color here. So we have used the ultramarine blue, but it's a bit more of a blackish grey blue. So let's see if I add a bit more yellow to it, if I'll get to the same color. So Payne's grey is always handy just to create this muted shade and a tone of color between the white and the shading color, the black if you wish. It should give you the result you are after. So it just by that combination, that's still more blue, still reads more blue. It may be that I need just a little bit of the ultramarine to give me that same color. Yeah, there's more of a blue freshness to it. And with the ultramarine, you can see there's a subtleness. It still is a little bit more of a dirty color, but I think it actually looks more like my sample. So that is Payne's grey, nickel azo, yellow and white gouache. So if I paint that there, yep, that's it. So that is nickel azo plus Payne's grey plus white. And those are my colors for week 50. So there's week 51 and week 52 to go of this year still. And all with the theme of treat. So I'm going to paint a little something with these colors of today or of this week's prompt. That video is coming up. Hi there. I'm going to paint something in the colors of week 50, but this was just on my page, and it's a painting I've done before, and it's a word that I've turned into a landscape, and it was whilst I was in South Africa, which is why it says Waterberge, the region where we were. And but it has this week's colors, and it's got the blue, the cobalt, slipper pink, and then it has the pistachio green, and it's a bit more also the banana yellow color. So it's all those tones. So that's a little landscape. But I'm going to work in my sketchbook and see what I come up with these colors.